I woke up in my tent, the thin fabric walls rippling gently in the cool night breeze. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of the Delaware forest, a scent I had always found comforting. I had come here seeking a break from the chaos of daily life, drawn to the tranquility of the towering pines and the gentle rustle of leaves. The campfire we had built earlier had died down to a faint glow, casting flickering shadows that danced across the canvas. As I lay there, a strange sensation crept over me. The forest, usually alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, was eerily silent. The absence of the usual night chorus felt unnatural, as if the world was holding its breath. I sat up, my heart beginning to flutter in my chest, and strained to listen. That's when I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping, like knuckles rapping against a hard surface. It seemed to be coming from just outside my tent. My mind raced with possibilities. Maybe it was just a branch knocking against a tree, I told myself, trying to shake off the growing sense of unease. But deep down, I knew it was something else. The sound was too deliberate, too purposeful. I fumbled for my flashlight, my fingers trembling slightly, and shone it out into the darkness. The beam cut through the night, illuminating the dense underbrush and the towering pines that surrounded my campsite. For a moment, everything was still. Then I saw it, a pair of eyes, small and beady, glinting in the darkness just beyond the reach of my light. They blinked once, slowly, and then vanished as if they were never there. I felt a lump in my throat. I had heard the stories, of course, the local legends about the Pukwudgie, a mischievous and sometimes malevolent creature that roamed these woods. But I had always dismissed them as fairy tales told to scare gullible children and tourists. Now, however, I wasn't so sure. The tapping sound resumed, closer this time, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I was suddenly acutely aware of how isolated I was, how deep into the forest I had ventured. The urge to flee was overwhelming, but I was frozen in place, caught between fear and disbelief. As the seconds ticked by, the forest seemed to close in around me, the shadows growing longer and darker. I was trapped in a waking nightmare, the line between reality and myth blurring with each passing moment. The question now was, what would I do? Would I confront the unknown? Or would I succumb to the terror that gripped me? The answer lay somewhere in the darkness, just beyond the reach of my light. The night deepened, and the oppressive silence of the forest pressed in on me like a physical weight. My mind was frantic, torn between the rational urge to dismiss what I had seen as a trick of the light and the primal instinct screaming at me to run. But where would I go? The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, and the thought of stumbling through it in the dark was almost as terrifying as the creature I now suspected was lurking just beyond my sight. I forced myself to take a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I had always prided myself on being level-headed, on facing challenges with a clear mind. But this was different. This was something that defied logic, something that belonged to the realm of stories and nightmares. Gathering my courage, I decided to take action. I rummaged through my backpack, my fingers brushing against the cool metal of my camping knife. The weight of it in my hand was reassuring, a tangible reminder that I wasn't completely defenseless. I also found my phone, but the screen showed no signal, leaving me isolated and cut off from the outside world. With the knife in one hand and the flashlight in the other, I slowly unzipped the tent flap, the sound of the zipper impossibly loud in the stillness. I stepped out into the night, the cool air hitting my face like a slap. The campfire had all but died out, leaving only a few embers glowing weakly in the pit. I shone my flashlight around, the beam cutting through the darkness and revealing the familiar shapes of trees and rocks. But there was something else, something that didn't belong. A series of small, strange footprints led away from my tent, barely visible in the dim light. They were unlike any animal tracks I had ever seen, with an odd, almost human-like quality to them. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed the tracks, my footsteps crunching softly on the forest floor. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees looming like silent sentinels. The sense of being watched was overwhelming, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being led into a trap. Suddenly, the tracks disappeared, as if the creature had simply vanished into thin air. I spun around, my flashlight beam darting wildly, trying to catch a glimpse of anything out of the ordinary. But there was nothing. Just the trees, the shadows, and the oppressive silence. My mind raced with possibilities. Maybe it was just an animal, I told myself, trying to rationalize the situation. But deep down, I knew the truth. The Pukwudgie was here, somewhere, watching and waiting. The forest was a symphony of shadows, each one shifting and twisting in the moonlight. I stood frozen, my senses heightened to a fever pitch. The Pukwudgie was close. I could feel it. The air was thick with tension, and every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I tried to steady my breathing, to focus on the task at hand. I needed to find a way to protect myself, to find some semblance of safety in this nightmare. I remembered the stories, the warnings about the Pukwudgie's cunning, and its ability to manipulate the mind. It could make you see things, hear things, things that weren't really there. I glanced around, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The shadows seemed to move, to dance in the corners of my vision. I blinked, trying to clear my mind, but the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Then I heard it. A low, guttural growl, unlike anything I had ever heard before. It seemed to come from all around me, echoing through the trees and reverberating in my chest. My heart leapt into my throat, and I gripped the knife tighter, my knuckles turning white. The growl was followed by a series of soft, shuffling sounds, as if something was moving through the underbrush. I spun around, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise, but it was impossible to tell. The forest was alive with movement, the shadows shifting and swirling in a dizzying dance. I took a step back, my mind racing. I needed to find a way to escape, to get back to my tent and regroup. But the forest seemed to conspire against me, the trees looming in and the shadows growing longer and darker. The shuffling sounds grew louder, more insistent, as if whatever was out there was closing in. I backed away slowly, my eyes darting from side to side, trying to catch a glimpse of the creature. But the darkness was impenetrable, and the shadows seemed to mock me, shifting and changing with every step I took. Suddenly, the forest erupted in a cacophony of noise. The growling intensified, joined by a chorus of high-pitched, chittering sounds that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my ears, my breath coming in ragged gasps. In that moment, I saw it. A figure, small and wiry, darting between the trees. It moved with an unnatural pace, its movements fluid and predatory. The Pukwudgie was unlike anything I had imagined. It was humanoid, but with sharp, angular features and eyes that glowed with a malevolent light. Its skin was a mottled gray, blending seamlessly with the shadows. I froze, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. The creature paused, its eyes locking into mine, and I felt a chill run down my spine. It was as if it was looking into my very soul, assessing me, weighing its options. Then it was gone, disappearing into the darkness with a speed that defied logic. I stood there, paralyzed with fear, beads of sweat dripping off my forehead and trickling into my eyes. I knew I had to move, to get back to my tent and find some way to defend myself. But the fear was overwhelming, holding me in its grip. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I had to think, to come up with a plan. I remembered the stories, the warnings about the Pukwudgie's tricks and illusions. It was a master of manipulation, able to twist your perceptions and play with your mind. I forced myself to take a step forward, then another, my eyes scanning the forest for any sign of movement. The growling and chittering had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that was somehow even more terrifying. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for me to make a mistake. As I moved, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement, a shadow that seemed to dart just beyond the reach of my flashlight. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The Pukwudgie was toying with me, I realized. It was playing with my mind, trying to wear me down, to break my resolve. I had to stay focused, to keep my wits about me. I thought of my friends, back at the campsite, blissfully unaware of the danger I was in. I couldn't let them down. I had to find a way to survive, to make it back to them. I quickened my pace, my footsteps crunching loudly on the forest floor. The sound seemed to echo through the trees, a beacon for the creature that hunted me. I could feel its presence, a malevolent force that seemed to close in from all sides. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound behind me, followed by a low, menacing growl. I whirled around, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, and caught a glimpse of the Pukwudgie, its eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. It was closer than I had thought, its teeth bared in a snarl. I stumbled backward in a panic, my mind struggling to come up with a plan. I knew I couldn't outrun it, and I couldn't fight it head-on. I had to be clever, to use my surroundings to my advantage. I spotted a large tree with low-hanging branches, and without a second thought, I darted towards it. I leapt up, grabbing onto the branches and pulling myself up as quickly as I could. The Pukwudgie lunged at me, its sharp claws raking the air just inches from my feet. I scrambled higher, my hands gripping the rough bark, my feet finding purchase on the branches. The creature paced beneath the tree, its eyes fixed on me, its growls growing more insistent. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I was safe, for now, but I knew it was only a matter of time before the Pukwudgie found a way to reach me. I had to think, to come up with a plan to escape. In a desperate bid for survival, I scanned my surroundings, searching for anything that could give me an edge. The tree I had climbed earlier was sturdy, but I knew the Pukwudgie was agile and could easily scale it if it chose to. I needed something more, a way to deter it, or at least buy myself some time. My eyes fell on a cluster of rocks nearby, and an idea began to form. I quickly scrambled down from the tree, my feet hitting the ground with a thud. The Pukwudgie, momentarily caught off guard by my sudden movement, hesitated, giving me a precious few seconds. I grabbed a rock, my fingers closing around it tightly, and hurled it at the creature with all the strength I could muster. It struck the Pukwudgie with a sickening thud, and the creature let out a high-pitched shriek, its eyes blazing with fury. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I turned and ran, my legs pumping furiously, my heart beating rapidly in my chest. I could hear the Pukwudgie behind me, its growls and snarls growing louder as it gave chase. I darted between trees, my mind racing as I tried to remember the path back to the campsite. The forest was a blur of shadows and shapes, and I could feel the creature closing in, its presence like a dark cloud at my back. Just when I thought I couldn't run any longer, I saw it. The faint glow of the campfire, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I pushed myself harder, my muscles screaming in protest, and burst into the clearing. As I stumbled into the clearing, my friends looked up, their faces a mix of shock and concern. I collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath, my body trembling with a mix of fear and relief. The Pukwudgie, it seemed, had vanished, retreating back into the depths of the forest. My friends gathered around me, their voices a comforting murmur as they asked what had happened. I recounted the encounter, my voice still shaky, and they listened in silence, their expressions growing more somber with each word. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then one of my friends spoke up, his voice gentle but firm. "We need to leave," he said, and the others nodded in agreement. We quickly packed up our campsite gear, our movements hurried and desperate. As we made our way back through the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being stalked, that the Pukwudgie was still out there, lurking in the shadows. But there was something else too, a sense of understanding, of respect for the forest and its secrets. The sun was just beginning to rise as we reached the safety of the car. I took one last look at the forest, a place that had once been a source of peace and solace, but was now a reminder of the terror I had faced. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on the experience. I realized that the encounter with the Pukwudgie was life-changing in ways I hadn't expected. It had taught me the importance of respecting stories of the unknown, of acknowledging the mysteries that exist beyond our understanding. I also came to appreciate the strength and resilience I had discovered within myself. I had faced a creature of legend and survived, and in doing so, I had learned that I was capable of more than I had ever imagined. I did return to the forest on occasion, not to confront the Pukwudgie again, but to remind myself of the lessons I had learned and the person I had become. In the end, I realized that the greatest danger lies not in the creatures that lurk in the shadows, but in our own fears and doubts. And the greatest strength is the courage to face those fears and the wisdom to learn from them.